My apologies. The whole time I was muted. So, um, one of my favorite things that we're going to be doing today, we're going to make some movie props. And we're going to look at some props from movies and things like that, and try to recreate them in real life. So, those of you that are new to the channel or might not know me, my name is Justin Haynes. The manager here at the Hill Makerspace in the library, and I've been making movie props for the last couple years. From TV shows, movies. I've made lightsaber hilts. I've made tons of stuff from Pokemon, Guardians of the Galaxy, all those prints and stuff like that. And we're going to be, this is the first episode in the series here where we're going to be looking and doing some research, looking at some reference materials, and kind of walking you through that process of how do we get started with this, because there are, several times where, it exists online already, but we want to make sure that, starting from scratch, how do you go about that process, right? Instead of just downloading something from the internet. So we are going to dive right in. We do already kind of have an idea of what we want to make. So what we're going to make is the Scream / Laugh canister from Monsters Inc. I love Disney, I love Pixar, I love Monster Inc., Monster University, all those movies. Monsters at Work, their new television show on Disney Plus. So love that whole series. So I've always thought the Laugh canister would be something cool to have in my possession. So we're going to make one using the tools that we have here available in the library. And some of my early research is, kind of picked out a few tools that are going to work for that. And the first step is going to be let's looking at some photos online, talking about why I choose certain photos that I do, what makes good reference material, what doesn't. Sometimes I stumble across things that other people have made so I can see what they've done. But we're going to jump into this. Let me share my screen. So we are looking at the Scream canister from Monsters Incorporated. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go to Google Images. Right. Now, using Google Images is very hit or miss on finding reference materials. Sometimes you're going to find stuff that works. Sometimes you're going to find stuff that just is not worth your time to look at. So you have to be really selective. This is a kind of a long process. Now, I've already found some photos that I like, so to make this not be as long as possible. But in the past, certain props, this might take a couple hours. Other ones, it might take months of you just kind of searching the internet here and there to kind of come up with what you need. So let's look at. Now, this is a Disney product, so anything that's from Disney, I'm going to trust really well. So, knowing your source is huge, right? So, depending on the production company or who made the actual props for the movies, things like that, we're going to kind of look at that. So, my first one here, I think I have that pulled up already. I do. So, this is a great reference photo for us. And why is that the case? So if we look at this reference photo, you'll notice a few things right off the bat. One, it's high quality. It's a high quality photo from the movie. So, is it working?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
The color looked a little weird. So
Gotcha.
fix that.
So this is a good reference photo for us because a few different reasons. One, the quality of the rendering from the actual movie was high quality, so we were able to kind of see in there. What we'll also look at is some of the key features. And when you think of the Scream canister, the gauge on the side is one of the key features that fills up as the child screams or now the child laughs. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Monsters Inc., which I think has been out for 15 years at this point. So we get a high res, we can even zoom in a little further and see, okay, there's 2 screws. We can see the decal and all of that from the actual prop itself. Now, this is even more important when you're looking at props from non-animated movies, for example. When you're looking at Luke's lightsaber or, one of the Horcruxes from Harry Potter or something like that people kind of oftentimes will like to make these prop replicas of. Sizing-wise, this doesn't do much for me. I can't really tell the size and scope of this. So I kind of, we're kind of needing to find out that. But what I'll normally do is I'll save all these photos into one folder. I'll even print them out sometimes as I'm working on them. But what we are able to see here is kind of our general shape of the canister. And this is where, the sketching part of it sort of begins, right? So what I want to do is start off hopefully, yeah, perfect. It comes right in my view there. We're going to start off, I'm just going to get the general shape that I see here, right? So we see a slope. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, I expect it not to be, actually. But I want to get the basic shape of my Scream canister down. Because then what I'm able to do is I can kind of come out and annotate that. I'll draw in the black bands. Okay. And what I also like about this is when we get to a later part down the line, when we start weathering it and putting on the decals and things, I can see really clearly the words of the decals that we have. I'm going to switch markers, so we're going to go down here in this bottom corner of my, can I see down here? Perfect. And I'll start a running list of little pieces, right? So we have the, we're going to come up with the gauge decal, right? The capacity decal. We see this unrefined Scream decal at the top, so that's our caution decal. And some of this early legwork just helps me remember later on how much stuff do I actually need to make here, right? Question, I wonder what SUV stands for. Scream. That's a good question. Maybe we can find that out in some of this lore. We'll see. Scream. What could the U be? But looking at this a little further, I also see that these are weathered. I don't want a perfectly clean screen canister, I think I want to do some of the weathering that they have on here. So looking and seeing where some of that weathering is also helps me. It's scratched up, the paint's chipping. It's got these two roller pieces, which are probably, I would guess, made of some type of rubber that rolls on those metal rollers so that it isn't too banged up. So that's kind of another useful piece of information. I can see the different geometry of the gauge canister. I have an idea of how we're going to make that gauge already. We're using a few tools in the makerspace. One, I do want the gauge to fill up, right? The gauge on here, that's got the ticks and all that. I do want that to fill up. Instead of doing what looks like a liquid in there, I may change it to LEDs where I can control it. So having some red LEDs that kind of shoot up in there. But we'll look at that and see. The tube itself, we might be able to use our vacuum former for. I expect most of this will be probably 3D printed. Except I might try to find something for this center unit that is just the cylinder. Because sometimes I'm not a big fan of printing something if I don't have to. Especially at the size this might end up being. But we'll see. We'll see around with it. And then sneakily, this photo, you always want to look in the background sometimes with photos like this, because if we look down here in this photo, we can actually see a depth that gauge has, and we see that these taper down. So having, looking at every little detail should help us with this. So screen unit volume, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad guess. And I'm just going to click through some of these. Now, obviously, some of these, you'll see this is something that someone's made on Etsy. This is a cup. Some of these aren't going to be useful, but this is from Disney. So we might see some other decals on here that we might have not seen before. Let's see if we can find some other. Oh, there we go. Let's open this GIF up. So we do see, in fact, there are a few other decals on the back side of the canister that we can't see from our initial screen grab. There looks to be a triangular decal in the middle and a triangular decal near the top. It's going a little too fast for me to be able to figure out what else is on there. So I will add in here triangle decal, mid triangle decal, top. And I'm going to guess that those ones from Disney, the ones that you can actually purchase the cups of, might be close to what that is. Oh, I'll always like the ones directly from the movie the best. Open image, a new tab. Let's look at some of these. So this one is a little granulated, so it's tough. This is one of those things where if you had a decal or you had something over here showing, it would probably be useful, but honestly this photo by itself is not very useful, except we're starting to see the size of scale when we come into looking at this. We can see a part of the door, we can see Mike, we might be able to figure out how tall Mike is on his Disney Wikipedia page or something like that, so that's something to keep in the back of our mind. He's mostly eyeball though, so there's another photo. think I actually have a higher quality photo of this that I actually pulled earlier. And we can look in here and we see those two decals again. And now that I'm looking at that one might not be a triangle. That one might be a square. That looks like some recycle symbol. We don't get much more geometry from this, except for now we have a little bit more of a straight-on picture of the gauge. That might not be a triangle. And this is the stuff. Now, there are oftentimes you'll find that props from let me go back over here so we can. I'll chat to you for a second. You'll oftentimes find props that sometimes contradict one another. It depends on the size or the shape of the prop, or a certain aspect of the prop might be a different color than a different photo. You'll find that more often with real life action props, stuff like that, rather than animated stuff, because they made a model of a scream canister, they're sharing it with each other. But in an actual film set, one prop there might be 20 or 30 of those made, and some are going to have higher level of detail than others. Stunt props aren't going to be as high as detail as the hero prop. The hero prop being like the main thing that you see someone use. On close-up shots, it's higher level detail, that sort of thing. So there's different levels of props as well. I wanted to kind of pick something that was a little easier for us to do for the first time. What's not going to be easy about the size of this is what's going to be our big challenge, I believe. So we can hop back over to screen share and kind of continue to move on through our images. Here's another photo. That one's also green. Maybe it's me. Now see, here's a good example here. Let's look at this. You also have to be careful of, for this, obviously, where it's a recurring thing, that top one is the screen canister I'm going for. That bottom one is a screen canister, is one of the laugh canisters from their new show. So I kind of want to be careful with some of my reference materials, making sure that I'm looking at the correct one. What this does give me is another sense of scale. And what I would do in a normal situation is I might be able to pull that photo, measure the door, and then measure the length of that screen canister as well, and kind of compare those based off of average door height, right? And so sometimes finding real world objects in the background that the size of, whether it's a water bottle, a drink can, anything like that, in the same shot, you can kind of use those dimensions and play with each other. I'm hoping I'll find a better photo, more straight on, so I don't have to do any guesswork, but let's see what we've got. Other people have made these. Obviously, this is not a novel idea. This is kind of interesting. Now, obviously, this is not official, but this does give me some useful information. That is, that triangle sticker is a warning sticker, according to this. I cannot type. We'll see if that's true, but we'll this is something I would maybe use to kind of get my dimensions a little more correct with its own, but I don't want to go off someone else's drawing because that's obviously not a Disney or Pixar product there. Here we go. Okay, so we can see these stickers a little bit better, even though this isn't high quality. That is definitely not a triangle on top. That is a square. Or a diamond, I guess, technically. Based off of that. That shape. Right? So we can kind of see a few of the decals a little bit better. That one has a red border. The capacity decals, all those are in the same spot, so we know we're fine there. Let's dig a little bit further. I'm only on page 1 of Google Images, so. Let's see. So let's try to refine it just a little bit because I'm getting a lot of. Obviously, this is a popular thing. When people think of Monsters Inc., they think of the screen canister. So let's try to see if we can. Monsters Inc. Click the movie tab. This gets us a little bit not quite. Click Disney. Obviously, this is not all Disney. I'm going to go back to this. Because now, from what I've seen in another photo, I have more faith that this sticker is probably pretty accurate. Right? So, I would save this photo. I might just even zoom in and save this screenshot here. It seems like it still says 8400 SUV. What it also shows me is in this upper left part of it is that the caution uncontained scream or caution something scream decal is on both sides, which is great. I also see in the back another decal that we've not seen yet. Now this might be just because it's on just a Disney park item and they want to throw some more marketing on there. I believe 5 words. What does that say? We scare because we care. So it's their slogan. It's the Monster Inc. slogan. And I've not seen that anywhere else yet, so we might. I don't know. That'll be a big question mark. Whether or not that's actually on. They're things that you kind of think about in the real world that I would doubt they would put their slogan on their canisters, but maybe we'll see. this logo, draw it a little bit bigger. Don't judge my not a square. Looks like that. And it says like S68 exclamation point. Those are black on white. And those two are white on green. Okay. So let's keep digging. I need to find, what I haven't found yet is the tops or the bottom. That's the big one. It's the big question mark right now. Because I don't think that's the thing. I know it has a valve. And I know that because of the waterness picture, there's something coming out. So I know that there's something up there. And I know that's what it looks like from the movie itself. So let's do screen canister with a valve and see what we get here. Now these are other people's drawings, so I don't really want to rely on them. That's another replica shop that you can purchase this. So I don't want to go down that route. Sometimes that's useful if you're really stuck, but yeah, I don't want to. It feels a little like cheating if I use another prop store to get my stuff. But let's see. Oh, now that's an interesting one. I believe this is from Monsters University. When they break the professor, the headmaster, or whoever it may be there. When it breaks their screen canister, if I remember that scene correctly. So, but what I see here, what this gives me, is at least the bottom of the canister. It also shows me if I was going to make this internally accurate. And let me back up and say, I'm not. This is not going to be 100% screen accurate. I know that. I'm making a real life prop for an animated movie. But two, the sizing of this, I'm going to get it close. I'm going to, as close as I can, hopefully be able to fit it on our printers here. Taking into account all of our other tools, you kind of have to sometimes play with what's available. So if the real canister is like 7 inches in diameter and we have to make it 6, I'll just make a slightly smaller one. If not, that's fine. But the inside of this is obviously not going to be accurate at all. This is going to be, either hollow, probably hollow for the most part, especially if I'm going to add any electronics in there. We know, looking at this now, looking at the building process of it, electronics wise, we want the gauge to work. All right, we want that to go up and down. If I play around with it, the ambitious goal you know, there's some MP3 files and shit like that of screams. I might be able to get it to scream and do something like that, but that's a stretch goal. I think the gauge going up and down is that's kind of almost a must for me. But the scream, the mist is another stretch goal. That would be a very hard one to come across, I believe, yeah, that'd be tough. But the gauge up and down working doesn't seem like it would be too hard, especially if there's a valve on the top, which I'm assuming there is. We might be able to get that to help control that LED strip, which I think is what I'm going to go with. So, but back to the photo that we see, we have the bottom now. This bottom kind of gives us, or this photo kind of gives us an idea of what the bottom looks like. And that looks like it has, it goes back up and rotate. I'm just going to kind of cheat a little bit here, and I'm going to, I don't really consider this cheating, actually. If you can draw a perfect circle by hand, I'm thoroughly impressed and slightly don't believe you. So, do a little bit of annotation just so I can kind of see the bottom. It's got that slope. It slopes downward. To show that, I'm actually going to cheat again. Alright. And hey Justin, could you draw Mike Wazowski, please? Let's draw. Yeah, there's Mike Wazowski on the S. Actually, now that I have this photo, I'm going to go to a different view. Switch over. Hopefully, there we go. You'll be able to see this a lot better now. Sorry about that. We've got our electronics list. We have our decals. I'm going to try to get this a little bit farther, closer to me. There we go. Perfect. The decals, our first initial drawing, the tile just helps me kind of see what this is. Because, part 2 of this might not be for a little while. It might be a couple weeks, something like that, before I get back to working on it. So I want to make sure I keep all this kind of nice and neat. Abby and Malika, there is your Mike Wazowski crude drawing that I have there. But going back to this bottom view, we have that bottom. It's going to, I'm going to draw some arrows just so it shows that it's sloping down. I lost my cap. It's gone forever. Okay. Looking at this photo a little bit more that you can no longer see, it does look like it flattens out. So, take my water bottle. And that's the same exact size as the tape. Never mind. No, I'm not. I don't have another circle to cheat with. So let's do this freehand here. It was going so well until the end. So we have the inner circle, and this is where we have 4 little standoff feet that kind of, they look like they follow the same or not the same diameter, but the same shape. So they do have a radius, they are curved. And I'll annotate extruded out. So those come up and out, and this center goes inward. So it's a pretty well, this should help me if I go and I want to model this in our next session, be able to kind of work backwards at recreating this. Now, dimensioning this obviously not going to be, the most accurate, but I can kind of tell from this photo that it doesn't quite go all the way back to this point. And what I'll actually do, I'm going to use red. That would mean that these feet actually stick out. We have a little indentation there, right? Now you can't see that too well, it's pretty small. I am saving this big one for kind of our last drawing of the whole thing, but hopefully you'll be able to kind of see what we're looking at there with the bottom and the canister. And see, this is one of those examples where I didn't see the bottom feet on any of the other images, but it's clearly there on that image. So you know what? Now looking at it, I kind of can see it on our original image, but Justin, you should make it where you can have an actual power bank in the canister and charge your phone with the screams. That could be useful. We could make it, I don't know if I'd want a cable coming out, but they do have the wireless chargers that we could put in the top. That would make it definitely more practical than just a screen canister sitting in the corner. Makes it harder too, so you're just adding a little bit of work, I'm sure. Digging through, trying to find some more photos for us to look at. Okay, so I found, here we go. Here we go. A screen grab from a movie that someone did. That's one of the downsides of me doing this on Twitch. I can't just play the movie and pause it where I want to. Obviously, if I was doing this on my own or my own prompts, I would be doing that so I can find the specific scenes that I want to find. But this triangle warning sticker has now made its appearance. So this is, let's go ahead and label some of these. So this is decal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 5 here. I'll block off that drawing. go. We'll just do decal 4 over here. So, switching back to our drawing, we see that this is a triangle. Border. We have some exclamation points and a child screaming. So now screaming child decal. Perfect. Hopefully you'll be able to see that somewhat. And then our colors. Black. Oh. Black. Those are red. And those are kind of teardrop shape exclamation points a little bit. So not exactly like your standard straight exclamation point. Awesome. Perfect. We're making progress. We're going to continue down this path. Our valve is still eluding us. While I'm kind of looking for a valve here, I'll chat with y'all. Monsters Inc., Monster University, you have a preference? I enjoy the first one a little bit more. I like Monsters Inc. better than Monsters University. Has anyone seen Monsters at Work? The new Disney Plus one. I'm trying to find any picture at all of the valve. We've not heard of this Monsters at Work thing. Oh, it's a new show, Disney Plus. It's directly following the end of Monsters Inc. So it worth the watch. I'll say that. It follows some characters, not Mike and Sully, but they are in it. they make appearances. So, okay, found another useful image for us here. But let's see. Still trying to find the valve. The valve is proving difficult for us. Oh, and here we go. We may have something, folks. May have found the top. Here are two photos that I think are going to play a huge role in getting our sizes. Right? Our size and our valve, which is the part that we haven't seen yet. This first one, we get a straight on look of the door with the screen canister next to it. Okay, so if we take this, I'm going to copy this image. We're going to go to Adobe Illustrator. Something else I'm working on. We're going to put this image in Adobe. Okay. Now, how tall is the standard Mike Wazowski? 4 foot. Okay, so this is smaller than 4 foot. Hopefully, I don't know. Perspective also makes it a little off, but average. Remember, this is a closet door size. Well, that says 30 inches. That's the width. We don't need that. Standard door size. I'm not buying doors right now. Closet doors are narrower and aren't required to meet standard interior door building codes. The average closet door has a width of 30 and a height of 96. So, if we know the closet door is 96 inches by 30 inches, right? We can go back into Adobe. We can get the width of the door. We can actually make this a little easier on ourselves. let's make this line 3 inches. Okay. And then we'll scale the image up until alright, we're close, we're close. That's pretty close there. So what we did, we looked up the size of the door. We figured out that your standard closet door, roughly 96 by 30. So let's see, we'll check this. So by, our logic here, I would imagine the end of the door would be probably down here. So that's what that is. 6.6 inches. Huh. So this is interesting. That throws us for a loop a little bit. Because if that's 30, and we made it 3 inches, that should mean the other one is 9.6 inches. 9.6 inches takes us all the way off the screen pretty much. So, we're sitting around the 6.7 inch mark. So, there's a few. This is throwing me for a loop. This messed with my mind a little bit. I thought we were at 3 inches. We're at 6.7, 67 inches. That has that door at like 5'7". Huh. Maybe this photo is not as helpful as I thought. Could be that this door is narrower than 30 inches. Could be a 24-inch door. Let's do the math with the 24-inch door. So let's take it down to 2.4. Would this work, or would this backfire for me? I think this is going to backfire. Possibly. Let's find out. Let's find out together. This is part of the process. Right, because if this is 24, Let's do some math. Let's do some math here. I lost my cap. My marker's drying up. Didn't think this was going to turn into a math stream, but we'll work together. And that is 2.4. Let's go 96 times 2.4 divided by 30. 7.68. Which should not be enough. 96 times 2.4 divided by 4, 9.6. I mean, yeah, obviously that would be the same. I don't know why I thought that would be any different. Sorry about that. Made y'all sit through that for nothing. Whew. I'm thrown for a loop here. Let's take a look at this. Shift gears for a second. Let's talk about the valve. We'll figure out the sizing in a moment. Give me 1 second to take a drink of water. $23.19. Maybe as a bonus prop, I'll make I'll make a sock and then the hatch that they used to blow up the sock when the 2319 occurred in the first movie. So, alright, looking at this photo, we've got a little bit better understanding of the valve now. So we can see on the top, we've got 2 handles. Alright, because this goes all the way through. You know what? Let me... Yep. So, let's go back to draw. We'll draw the bottom and then we'll draw the top as well. I'll also do on the bottom. Can you see this? I'm just gonna quickly sketch our other profile view. Now this is actually what you would want to do anytime you're sketching an object, is you want to get multiple views of it. We know that goes across. We know we have some feet that play a factor, and then we also know that inside those feet we have a hidden tapered section. All right. Hopefully you can see that. I don't think y'all need to see the canister anymore, so what I just drew was a side profile view. I didn't give myself a lot of room with this closet door math that didn't make any sense, but a side profile view of the bottom. Okay. Now if I do the same thing with the top, Why didn't y'all tell me I didn't get that? Jeez. I do the same thing with the top. Right, I can see on here that it's the same slope. And let's say our gauge is here, right? We'll just put that line there to say that's the center. We have our valve in the center. Single valve, which was one of my questions, because one of our other, if you see on the door, there's two. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep jumping back and forth a little bit. That's the process. There's two tubes coming out. So I was curious if there was one valve or two, but there is just one. Okay, there's a single valve there. It's probably a little bit bigger than that, actually. So there is a gasket as well. That's what it looks like. There's a black gasket. Alright, and then if we draw out our profile view, obviously this is much bigger than the bottom because it's okay. It's okay. As long as I understand my drawing, I'll be able to replicate it in 3D later on. We'll be fine. It's going to come out to about here. I'm accidentally doing these backwards. I should be doing it the other way, but that's okay. So we know we have a small ring there, right? So this goes up to a small ring that goes all the way around. So we know that from this profile, there's also a hole that goes down what looks like all the way to the black piece where that continues. That. It looks like there's the handles that they hold the pieces with, and where the jaws come down and grab onto it. Looks to be like right there as well. So then our valve got that gasket there that's a little bit bigger. Then our valve looks like it comes up and up like that, but then we know it goes back down to the center for the center part. Right? So that's kind of what we see there. I'll continue to kind of figure out our valve situation. Like I said, this is a process that usually for props might take you a long time to find. So what we're going to do is the last little 20 minutes we have here is we're going to kind of sketch out, if I took one of these canisters, I cut it, and then I rolled it out, what's that going to look like? Just so I kind of get an understanding of how the layout looks, how everything works together, and kind of just a nice profile of the whole thing with the decals, with the handles, with everything kind of going on, right? So what I will do is, let's find a good straight on picture of a whole canister. So I'm looking here, but y'all don't really have to see that too much. Let's see here. I'm just gonna pull dimensions off of my best guess. Let me use millimeters. It might make life a lot easier. Okay. So on my screen, I have it being 85 millimeters tall. And 25 millimeters wide. So let's see here. Diameter of circle. Do some math. Not the diameter, sorry. Circumference. Let's plug some numbers into the calculator. Our circumference is going to be 70. We're going to make this thing a little bit bigger. So let's double all these. So on my screen, I have it being 83 millimeters. So 3 times 3 is 249. And then I have the diameter being 25. So let me make sure my math is right. Surface area of cylinder. Just to make sure I'm correct. Yeah. Perfect. So 25.75. Sorry. No, I'm being a little quiet here. Doing math. This is the not so fun part of the process. I'm making it bigger is the issue so that we can see it. So on my screen it's 80 something. I made it up to 245, so I times it by 3, so 245 millimeters. Okay, and then times that diameter is 25. I times that by 3, so 75. Half of that for the radius is 37.5. That circumference is 235. So we'll use this to make it square. Now I can continue that along that line. 235. Pull that back, get it square. 235. So if I unwrapped a full canister, it would look something like that. But it wouldn't, because we have our different cutouts and stuff. So we know that we've got 3.9. That's our tapered edge. Alright. That's that part that tapers each way. Right. We then have another section that goes straight 45. 45. Alright, so we have, that's a straight section. And I'm running up near our time here today, but if I can get to this point and have some dimensions that are somewhat accurate, well, you know, next time we'll get the sizes exactly right with our scale, the scale that we're working with. And it might turn out to be where I just decide that I want to make it a certain size. It doesn't have to be life size for what I'm doing here. Now, obviously, if you were wanting it life size, you'd spend some more time. But most of the time, like I said, you're not using an animated TV shows or animated movies. That has monsters. You know, you're sometimes not making stuff like that. You're making, you know, you're making Tom Riddle's diary from Harry Potter with a basilisk fang sticking out, and you need the actual. You can find the actual size of a diary pretty easily. You know, most books or most diaries are only a few different sizes, so it really kind of comes down to, you know, your own level of detail that you're wanting to get. Now I'm kind of, what I'm doing now is doing some relative scaling to this. I'm not too worried about making it 100%. Because this is just step one. Remember, you know, we're going to have to, we're going to go back and take this into a 3D software that's going to get our model that we have so that we can kind of figure out you know, what parts need to be 3D printed, what parts don't, all that. We have our wonderful gauge here. So that one is 2.8. So 2.8 times 28, 40, 56, 72. So we have our gauge here that is pretty close. And obviously, anytime you're pulling rough dimensions like this from the internet, you make sure you don't want to change tabs or change screens or anything like that at this point. Alright, so there's our gauge. And then wrapping around the rest of this, we have, and that's our gauge sticker, right? We can go in and, let's see, our gauge itself has 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 little tabs on each side, which are kind of pointy. And just because I'm doing this step doesn't mean I'm not going to be looking back at my reference photos at all either, right? So I'm going to continue to use my reference photos so that I can, you know, make sure that I'm doing things correctly. I'm not just abandoning those once I'm done with my drawing. It's interesting the placement of the lines on the cylinder versus the tabs here. And so now here we have our gauge decal. And the gauge decal was the one that we saw, you know, it's the max screen capacity, $8,400 SUV. I look at my photos for a variety of reasons, not only making sure I'm correct, but also like making sure that my font matches, you know, kind of what I'm coming up with. So, let's find up on this part of the top is some detail that we don't have here. We have our two pieces of handle, and obviously my math, I'm kind of guessing where those They're going to be in relation, but in between those, we have another sticker. Caution, unrefined scream. That's the number 3. Oh, sorry. That is the capacity decal. That's number 2. Number 1 is the green plus minus decal around the cage. That is our max scream decal. Our third, the caution decal. That's what that is. Okay. Then on our, looking at some of the other reference photos that we have, both of these, oh, this is also here. So that wraps around. We need 2 of those. Okay, so that's also good to know. Then on the back here we have our first decal, which is our triangle. That is number 4. Then up top here we have the 5. That's that decal there. So we kind of start to see, you know, and those seem to be actually more this way, right? I think they're more in line with the handles. Oh, and I just messed up my drawing. Bummer. It's not messed up. Everything's fine. I can still make sense what this is. And that's kind of our basic start, you know, for the screen canister, the basic layout there. We'll talk electronics briefly. The gauge, I think I want to use an LED strip, right? When I start thinking about, now I'm starting to get to the point where, like, how can I make this, right? That's kind of how we're starting here with electronics. We can, the LED strip, I could get it to go up and down, and I could maybe repurpose the valve as a potentiometer. So that when you turn the valve, it would actually go up and down. Just an idea. It might be possible. It's probably the best way. We'll have to have a power button somewhere. So power. Do we do a power bank to power the stuff? Do we do a battery? Do I add in the phone charging aspect? That phone charging aspect is pretty ambitious. The Scream and Mist, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some research on, like, is that even possible? I mean, the Scream is possible. That one doesn't seem too hard. Just doing some MP3 stuff. Possible, yes. Probable, meh. And the Mist that's very ambitious. I might just have to not do the Mist. When I start thinking into other considerations, you know, my design constraints, my printers here at the library are only 6 by 6, so 6 inches diameter is about all I would have. So actually I can figure out how tall that would be if I have a 6-inch diameter. What is X? When I know my ratio is approximately What did I say earlier? My height's like 82 for a width of 25. So 82 times 6, 252. No, 492. 252 plus 8, 240. 492 divided by 25 gives me a height of 19 inches. And I know that this is taller than 19 inches, so that means my width. I do have a larger printer here. We do have a TAS 6, which prints 11 by 11. So I could go up to at least that size. Looking at the door, if I go off of a, if I go off of this one alone, right? Like, it's about half, a little under half the door. So it almost goes up to the doorknob. If a doorknob's 96 inches, that means half of it's 48. And it's not that tall, so it's more like 40. Maybe like 36. So 36. Let's do some math again. 36 times 25. 900 divided by 82, and then our width is about 11 inches. That seems okay. What I think I'd be able to do for that, if my width is 11 inches, the TAS can print just about that diameter. This could be 3D printed. This could be 3D printed. And now I guess it'd technically be up until this point would be 3D printed. This gauge would be 3D printed. The tube is vacuum formed. So our vacuum former heats up plastic, and then we have clear plastic that we heat up. We push down over a mold, a vacuum sucks out all the air, and then we have a form left. So I think if I do that mixed with some sandpaper, I could get that kind of opaque clear tube that then behind it with the LEDs would show up pretty well. And then all of my decals can be cut on our Cricut vinyl cutter. So really my question is getting this center tube piece. So finding an approximately 11 inch, let's go back to do some ratios. Yay. That piece is approximately 37. So that's 37. The actual height's 36. No. 82 over 37. 36. Math. That's going to be pretty close to that, actually. So that height needs to be about 16. So that's more than what our printer can print. Our printer can't print that tall. I could print this in a few sections, in just 3 sections total. If it's 36 inches, I could print a 12 section, 12 section, 12 section. I could do that. That is one way to do it. That might be the first way I model it. But sometimes you don't need to model it. You don't have to. So I can try to find some sort of plastic cylinder that is about 11 inches in diameter. And then cut that down to size. So that might be where that's a sticking point. That's another thing. You're just gonna kind of go shopping around online or Home Depot or Lowe's or any place like that, and just walk around the aisle sometimes and see what they got and see if they have something that is close enough or that will work. And that is, our next step is finding out where do we go from here. Do we want to print this whole thing? Printing it, there has its advantages. All the materials are the same. That means they're going to paint the same. They're going to act the same with paint and decals and all that. And when I weather it, because I want mine beat up, I don't want a nice crisp screen canister. I want this thing to went through the lath floors. But yeah, I think that's where we're at. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you for coming out. This is part 1. I'm gonna hopefully see this thing through. We didn't make as much progress as I would have liked today. I would like to start getting into a little bit of the 3D modeling of it, but this is a step. This is a big step in making props, whether it's movie props, TV show props, animated video games, anything like that. Those kind of props, getting screen grabs, getting sizes and stuff like that, and doing it yourself is sometimes a little more satisfying. Sure, this file probably exists on the internet somewhere for free, or I could pay for it, but building it yourself sometimes feels a little bit better. So, in my opinion. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out. Hopefully you'll join me next time. I think we're going to try to get all these into one video as well eventually, so that you can kind of watch the process fold. So have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you next time.